The real story of Robert, the haunted doll that inspired Chucky from Child's Play. It may have been 20 years since I first saw Child's Play, but you better believe it stayed with me. After all, who could forget the iconic killer doll, Chucky, with his flame red hair, wide blue eyes and evil grin? With the remake of horror classic released in Australia on June 20, fans like me are rejoicing and possibly just a tad afraid. At least when we watch serial killer claim his next victims, we can tell ourselves Chucky is a work of fiction, right? Actually, wrong. Child's Play's Chucky is Hollywood's best-known killer doll, but he was once a human serial killer named Charles Lee Ray, aka the Lakeshore Strangler. Chucky is Hollywood's best-known killer doll, but he was once a human serial killer named Charles Lee Ray, aka the Lakeshore Strangler. The history of the horror genre is full of evil dolls, with one of the earliest examples being the murderous Talky Tina found in the classic Twilight Zone episode, Living Doll. In more recent times, the demon-possessed Annabelle has starred in 3 successful Conjuring spin-off films, and the puppet called Billy has become one of the most iconic elements of the Saw franchise. When it comes to killer dolls in horror though, there's one clear front-runner, Chucky. Debuting in 1988's Child's Play, Chucky has returned to claim victims in 6 sequels, with the most recent being 2017's Cult of Chucky. Chucky, voiced by Brad Dourif, will also return next year in a Child's Play TV series set to air on Sci-Fi. Somewhat controversially, Orion Pictures also debuted a new Chucky in 2019, voiced by Mark Hamill, in a Child's Play remake. Franchise creator Don Mancini objected, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. While not quite looming as large as a Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers in the annals of horror, Chucky is most definitely an icon of the slasher genre, and a character even most people who aren't horror fans would be likely to recognize. However, Chucky himself wasn't always a doll, and his origin story serves to make the character even more fearsome. Before becoming the foul-mouthed, bloodthirsty doll horror fans know and love, Chucky was a serial killer prowling the Chicago area named Charles Lee Ray, dubbed the Lakeshore Strangler by police. As seen in the beginning of the first Child's Play, Charles was eventually caught up to and shot by Detective Mike Norris' Chris Sarandon. Not wanting to die, Charles ducked into a toy store, and used a voodoo artifact called the Heart of Damballa to transfer his soul into the nearest item, a good guy doll. The doll, now inhabited by the soul of Charles Lee Ray, was subsequently sold in a back alley to Karen Barkley, and the rest is horror history. Amazingly, the killer doll, who returns to the big screen on June 21 in a reboot of the original film, was inspired by the story of a real voodoo doll that traumatized a Florida family over 100 years ago. Robert the doll was gifted to Robert Eugene Otto in 1906 by his family's Bahamian maid, who is believed to have practiced black magic and voodoo. The sailor-suited toy stands at 40 inches tall, is stuffed with wood chippings and once bore painted features not unlike those of a jester. Legend has it that Robert, who went by the name Gene, told his parents the doll mutilated his other toys and would knock furniture over during the night. His wide blue eyes and evil smile, demonic doll Chucky has been terrifying horror fans since the first Child's Play movie was released in 1988. Amazingly, the killer doll, who returns to the big screen on June 21 in a reboot of the original film, was inspired by the story of a real voodoo doll that traumatized a Florida family over 100 years ago. Robert the doll is now on display at the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. The doll is believed to be cursed. Credit Wikipedia. Robert the doll was gifted to Robert Eugene Otto in 1906 by his family's Bahamian maid, who is believed to have practiced black magic and voodoo. The sailor-suited toy stands at 40 inches tall, is stuffed with wood chippings and once bore painted features not unlike those of a jester. Legend has it that Robert, who went by the name Gene, told his parents the doll mutilated his other toys and would knock furniture over during the night. Robert is believed to have inspired the Chucky film Child's Play. Credit, IMDb. In the original 1988 movie, which spawned 6 sequels, the notorious serial killer's spirit inhabits a good guy doll and goes on a murder spree to avenge his own death. Robert attacked 10-year-old and tried to kill her. When Jean died in 1974, the house was bought by a new family and converted into a bed and breakfast. Robert was found in the attic and given to the family's 10-year-old daughter. But she soon began to suffer from night terrors, her other dolls were mutilated and she claimed that Robert moved about her bedroom and tried to attack her. She claimed Robert the doll tried to kill her on more than one occasion, and when the family dog was found, with a cord tied tightly round its neck, Robert was put in a trunk in the attic. Frightened guests to the B&B then reported unexplained footsteps and laughter coming from the loft. In 1994, Robert was donated to the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, but the controversy around him has not ended. Cameras and electronic devices are said to malfunction in his presence, and staff have reported shifts in his position and a change of expression. Giggling doll destroyed toys and terrified neighbors. Robert the doll was one-of-a-kind toy made by the Steiff Company of Germany around the turn of the century. The servant who gave it to the 6-year-old Jean was said to have put a voodoo curse on it, using a lock of Jean's hair sewn into the clothing. The boy's parents often heard him talking to the doll. At first, they assumed their son was simply answering himself in a changed voice, but later claimed to believe that Robert the doll was actually speaking. They also said they heard the doll giggle, and visitors reported seeing the doll's facial expressions change. Neighbors claimed to have seen Robert moving from window to window when the family were out. Jean grew up to become a prominent artist and, after his parents died, moved back into the home with his wife Anne and was reunited with Robert. Anne was freaked out by the doll, claiming she saw its expression change, and he was confined to the attic. But the haunting didn't stop there. Visitors to the house heard footsteps and laughter upstairs, and, on more than one occasion, Jean was said to have found Robert sitting in a rocking chair in the main house, having escaped from the attic.